Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering. This is Lisa Levinson, and I'm one of your co-hosts for our event this evening. And I'm delighted to share with you what's coming next. But first, this gathering, the reason we're all gathered here together is to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And we do this every other month, and we bring in different people that we think will be interesting for you to have conversations with, leaders in the vegan spiritual movement. And if you are interested in learning more about vegan spirituality, you can join through our website, veganspirituality.com, where you'll find a list of groups nationwide that you can join when we're able to be in person with each other once again. So we encourage you to check out our website and to find our local groups. But meanwhile, we're here all together in this virtual sacred space so that we can join in celebration together. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to my co-host, Judy Carmen. She is going to introduce you to our special featured guest tonight.
Thanks, Lisa. It is so great to be here, and we're so excited because we just found out about Shaleen Shah, who is the founder of the Lovin Arms Sanctuary. And Alexis Miller told us about you all. And so, yeah, we're just like, oh my gosh, we've got to talk to him. And of course, we wanted to talk to your wife too, Shelby. Am I saying her name correctly?
That's right, yeah.
Shilpi Shah, but she couldn't be with us. And evidently they're expecting a snowstorm and have a lot to get ready for the sanctuary. But let me just read a little bit about them. Shaleen and Shilpi are the founders of Lovin Arms Animal Sanctuary. They are spreading the values of Ahimsa, which is one of my favorite words in the whole world. Also, Jiv Daya and Karuna towards farmed animals, actively creating a more compassionate community for the animals and our planet. These sanctuary founders and dedicated Jains grew up in India before moving to the US. Lovin Arms has grown substantially, already having saved over 800 animal lives. That is a lot for us to be thankful for, and to congratulate you all about, and also welcoming thousands of visitors every year. And I'm going to be one of them because I don't live that far away. So glad to find out about this. Along with Lovin Arms, Shaleen and Shilpi are doing something else, which is really cool. It's called the opensanctuary.org. And I went there, and my goodness, there's so much information. If you wanted to have a sanctuary for just one rooster, for example, go there and you can find out all about how to sanctuary a rooster. And then there's all different kinds of animals there and ways to take care of them. So, and all kinds of advice also. And the Open Sanctuary freely publishes hundreds of resources on how to start, manage, and grow an animal sanctuary. Shaleen and Shilpi make a living as software consultant, that's Shaleen, and I think, is that right? And Shilpi is a tax accountant. So that may be why she's not with us. I just now realized that. They live in Boulder, Colorado with their two young boys, Aarav and Avi. Did I say their names correctly?
That's right, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let's get right to it. We want to hear all about what it was like to live in India, and as a Jain, your family was Jain, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, and that's just been a passion of mine for so long, because the Jain religion is they just got a hold on compassion in so many different ways. And Gandhi took the vow of Ahimsa. So it's really a special thing for all of us in vegan spirituality. So please tell us about what it was like to be Jain as a child, and what you were taught, And then tell us why you came to the U.S. after
Sure.
that.
Yeah. First of all, Judy, thank you so much for such a kind introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me, you and Lisa both. Very honored to be here. So to kind of go to your question about growing up Jain, in India, kind of growing up Jain, it was where we lived. It was just kind of normal. I mean, you didn't really realize the differences in different cultures and different religions kind of living in that area. But it just was. It was great. It kind of laid the foundation to our values and our belief systems. That we thought ourselves as the values of Ahimsa and Jiv Daya, Karuna, like those are kind of woven into the fabric. But a lot of it, you can practice a religion spiritually, or you can practice a religion through rituals. And I got to see both. I had my mom's side of the family practice a religion more spiritually, where they focused on the philosophy, and there isn't really worship in the Jain religion. If you practice it spiritually, it's about a way of life, about kind of cleansing your mind, your body, your thoughts, and your pathway to moksha or nirvana comes through that spiritual gain. And then on the other side, I did get to also see the ritual side of the religion, where they do worship. It's really the saints, right? So there's no God in Jain religion, but it is the saints that have come before us who have achieved moksha, who have achieved nirvana through their enlightenment, and their teachings is what Jains follow. So in the more ritualistic side of the religion, there is you're worshiping or practicing rituals towards for those saints, and so I got to see a little bit of both. I moved to the U.S. fairly young in life. There was only about 10, and my parents left everything in India and kind of picked up and started all over here in the U.S. to give myself and my brother an opportunity in life to be able to do more here. And Shilpi's family had a similar story, but she came a little bit later in her life, closer to college.
Wow. Okay. So it was just natural to you to think in the way of a Jain, which is nonviolence, basically, right?
Right. That's right.
And I understand that a lot of Jains for centuries had animal hospitals and animal sanctuaries. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So, and the term for it is Jiv Daya. That it's kind of built into the Jain practice. There's a lot of belief systems around saving lives from slaughter or protecting them in many different ways. So that's even feeding a cow on a daily basis, because there's a lot of cows on the streets in India. So feeding a cow is also considered kind of part of that ritualistic belief systems on a daily basis. But yeah, so that was fairly kind of built into just who we were growing up.
Yeah, that's amazing, because we're in the U.S. working so hard to bring that kind of concept to people of kindness and taking care of other species. And it's a very foreign concept to a lot of people, and especially, well, I shouldn't say especially, but to a lot of religious people. The animals are pretty much left out in many cases. So you guys have been kind of the guiding light, I think, and you've kept the idea of Ahimsa alive for centuries and centuries. And now I think it's finally coming to the West, and people are understanding, okay, there's a whole lot more to being being a good person than just taking care of humans. There's the all of the big species everywhere. So yeah, so that's just wonderful that you had that experience, and then you kept it going. Obviously, here you are with a sanctuary in Colorado. So
There's still, over time, there's still learning and evolution of even your own thinking, right? So growing up, we were vegetarian. Much of Jains were, pretty much all the Jains that we knew were vegetarian, although some I did find out later were vegan. But it's kind of that difference of when you believe you're in a religion, then you follow these rituals and you follow certain things more culturally rather than intrinsically. And so when you stop to ask those questions and really think about the values intrinsically, it then changes how you apply them in your daily life. And I feel, there's more and more awareness and awakeness now in the Jain community. But for a very long time, dairy consumption or drinking milk from cows, it was part of the normal day to day. So there's still, always more growth and evolution happening. And it was the same for us. We did not even think twice about dairy until just several years ago.
yeah, it takes time. It took me time. I started out vegetarian, and then one day I realized what was going on with cows and chickens too for eggs.
Yeah.
So, do you think there's been some progress in Jane's understanding this? Seems like they would be the easiest ones to convince
You would think
about
so.
milk.
That's right. Yes, you would definitely think so. There's definitely been a lot of progress, especially over the past several years. There's been a lot of progress, but change is difficult for anyone, and it has proven to be for the Jain community too. Although people are starting to now recognize and are trying to make the shift, but it's still difficult. It's you're always changing culture, history, the way you cook, the way your parents or your grandparents cooked, and there's a lot of emotion tied to food. So it takes
Right.
time and a lot of effort for people. So it's coming, just not fast enough, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Just more education and
Yeah,
more people meeting cows and finding out what kind of people they are and
that's right.
how they don't want to be harmed and
Yes.
how much harm is involved in the dairy industry. And I
Yeah.
understand that over in India, there's a tendency to just, when the cows are no longer producing milk, they just send them out into the streets and they end up getting pretty sick or starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There hasn't been a solutionary approach to dairy in India. Even a lot of Jains who practice Jiv Daya, and they have these shelters with thousands, if not tens of thousands of cows that they save from slaughter, which is tremendous. It's amazing. But the root cause of the problem, why are these cows being put on the street or being tried to send to slaughter, even illegally sometimes? There's laws in place that are, again, not addressing the solution. There's laws in place that tells the dairy farmer, and these are in India, I think it used to be like 99% of dairy came from a small, like, mom and pop with a few cows. It's now starting to shift towards a more industrialized system, but even today I would say about 85 to 90% of the dairy comes from a small farmer. So there's laws in place that says you as a dairy farmer cannot send a cow to slaughter. However, the economics dictate that you just can't take care of the male babies or the females who are no longer producing milk. And so they will either send them to slaughter in the night, kind of under there's that underground, things happening there, or they leave them out on the streets to kind of fend themselves for themselves. But there isn't, it's not a solutionary approach. They're not addressing the root cause. But yeah, it's a bit of a challenge there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and of course here too, because we've got posters in schools saying you have to drink milk to be healthy, and the health departments demanding that the schools serve milk to every child, and it being part of, so many recipes. People are, even vegetarians are so used to it,
Right.
and saying things like, oh, I can tell if there's no milk or cream in the cookie, then it's no good. But I think we're making a lot of progress with the new products that can mimic the whatever it is that the cooks want, the creaminess and all that. That's really helpful. But you're right, it boils down, the core cause is the human intent. And for us to get our intent up to the highest level of absolute non-harm.
Yeah.
And that's what Ahimsa is all about. And I don't even know if we'd have gotten this far if it hadn't been for the word Ahimsa and the concept of it and the teachings of it. So we owe a big debt of gratitude to you all, and to keeping that alive. So Jiv Daya, that's what does that actually mean? You said something about it.
Absolutely. So it's kindness to life, all life, right? So Jiv means life, and Daya translates to kindness. And in the ritualistic practice of Jiv Daya, the way it's applied is sparing of life from slaughter or from suffering. So, Jains, when you say the word Jiv Daya, it specifically to them, it translates, well, I will pay or do some action to spare a life from harm. And that is practicing Jiv Daya. So, so it's kind of used in a, in that way. But spiritually, it's just about being kind to all life. And that comes in many different ways. How we think, how we talk, how we act, our choices we make in the supermarket, all of that, takes to action, how we apply Jiv Daya.
Wow, I love that. So, and that translation is so perfect. So a lot of Jains actually seek out an opportunity to save a life in order to practice Jiv Daya. And then, of course, the ones that have the sanctuaries themselves are doing it on a constant basis. I've seen some of those films, and it's unbelievable, the number of animals that they're trying to take care of. Yeah. So, okay. Now, I know Karuna means compassion, right?
That's right.
But you also mentioned Karuna. I think I saw it on your website.
That's right.
So how does that fit into what you do at the sanctuary?
Absolutely. And so we feel kindness and compassion are very different words, right? So kindness is kind of an act of ego, where we have something to give to others to be kind. Whereas compassion is an act where you're removing the ego and you're putting yourself in the shoes of the other and feeling their pain, feeling their needs, feeling their, their emotion, their, whatever it is. And so I feel it's two very different values. And it has to be woven into what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So people who have Karuna deep in their hearts, they're going to do Jiv Daya because they must.
That's right.
Yeah, it's in their heart, it's in their soul, and they just have to.
That's right.
Thank you. So, well, tell us, I know everybody's dying to know more about the sanctuary and where it is. It's near Denver, a
That's
little
right.
bit north of Denver, I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, tell us about it. How did you get it started? What motivated you to start it
Yeah.
and all that?
Sure. So, uh, you know, our vegan journey started about 10 years ago when our first son was born. We were vegetarians and had a lot of dairy. And when he was born, he had a lot of trouble thriving. He was very colicky, throwing up, skin was breaking out, and this was just in the first couple of days. And we were very concerned. So we went to a pediatrician and she suggested to remove dairy from Shilpi's diet as the first step. Luckily, we had kind of a holistic pediatrician that we were working with, and she even gave it as a area of exploration. And it came as a bit of a shock at that moment. It was like, isn't dairy really good for us? Like we all grew up eating dairy. Like, why is this happening to our son? And so my wife, Shilpi, she just dived in and started learning and exploring the subject. And it really stuck to her that in a dairy industry, the baby cows are taken away from their mom right away. And here she is with a baby who's just days old and just employing Karuna, compassion, and feeling that. She said, there's no way we're ever going back to dairy. And so that's how the vegan journey started. Unfortunately, it took me 2 years to kind of wean myself off of cheese because it is truly so addicting. She was the guiding light and kept us, moving towards a more ethical living. And then closer to when my second son was going to be born, 3 years later, um, you know, we we kind of came across this opportunity where Shilpi did, that she knew that I loved riding horses when I was young in India, and here in the U.S. I didn't ride or I couldn't ride, and she found somebody in a park right when my second son was about to be born, and that she thought she was helping me find my passion again. But what that led to was we ended up adopting our first horse, Holly. We'd never had any animals in our life up until then. So we just kind of went big and adopted a horse. And that was the first time I started to see the horse for who the horse is instead of what I wanted from the horse. And slowly I started to understand the depth of emotion and feeling and individuality that the horse had. Because up until then, you learn these values of Ahimsa, Karuna, Jiv Daya, you learn all of these things. But at the same time, the common belief system is that these are animals are, they're voiceless, they're, kind of, they, the teaching of complexity of life and the complexity of their emotion and just how much they want to live is kind of absent. So you're almost doing those things from kind of an ego centered where you're up above and animals are down below and they need help and so we will help them. But really instead, when we adopted Holly, the horse, that was the shift for both of us from going from, okay, these animals don't need our kindness, they need our compassion. We need to understand them as individuals. And when you do, you just cannot help but want to do more to protect and save them and change our behavior in how it's affecting them. So, once we had Holly in our lives and she really made that shift for us, our natural next step was we want to help other horses because of like the atrocities that happen to horses all the time. So we adopted Niblet, another horse, and then we heard about a mare with two babies with her who was being sent to a slaughter auction about an hour away from our home. And so it felt really wrong and felt like we just needed to help. We didn't have land, but we were boarding the horses. Luckily, we had some money enough to be able to do that. So we wanted to save this mare as well. So I drove up to the slaughter auction. And what I was not ready for was to see hundreds and hundreds of other farmed animals also there, each one of them with fear and emotion in their eyes. And I was there for 6 hours waiting for those horses to come to the auction floor. And in that time, I saw, these individuals being kicked, prodded, pushed, and pulled into the auction floor, being sold by the pound. And it was an incredibly emotional day. We saved the horses. We were able to do that, but it felt like such a defeat. It felt like I couldn't help more. And the entire ride to go to the boarding facility, all I could do was to pray to the universe that if I had land, if we had land, we could have saved some more of the others. And literally that very evening, we received a phone call from somebody we knew that there's 23 acres, 2 miles from your house for lease. Do you know someone who can use it? And it just felt like this huge sign from the universe. And, we signed the lease the next day. It was very scary. Our two boys were just, 3 and just about 1, and they were very young. And it was very scary. And we had never managed land. We hadn't cared for any animals. Even the horses were being cared for at a boarding facility. I was not handy. I couldn't barely swing a hammer. And so here we were about to do something completely crazy, and had no idea how to do it. And somehow I think one of our neighbors posted on Facebook for a call out to volunteers, and 35 strangers showed up one day and helped us, fix and clean up the property, and it gave us our path. It told us that we can do this because it's not just the two of us doing it, it is a community together. So one of our mottos is connecting community through compassion. And it was born that day when those 35 strangers showed up, and they stayed for 8 hours and helped us clean and fix and prepare the property for our first rescue. And they kept coming every weekend after that. And it was just a really wonderful beginning. So that's how the sanctuary started, and it just kind of had a life of its own. We've had an incredible community of volunteers and supporters who have helped us along the way. We're only about 5.5 years old now. And we've moved from those 23 acres we were leasing to a property we have of our own. We have 40 acres in Erie, Colorado that we're now working on building out. So that's the story of the sanctuary.
Oh, and that's Karuna, what you were feeling, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the kindness.
That's right.
It was a deeply felt compassion for those animals that connected you, I guess, to the universe's plan for you. Boy, what a story. That's just amazing and beautiful. And what lucky animals, and that they get to live with you and with these wonderful volunteers. So those people just heard about it and showed up.
That's right.
I think there's so many people who want to be able to do something
That's
and
right.
to help even just one animal, and to have a chance like that is a real gift to the people as well as the animals.
Mm.
Just to be, yeah, in that space of pure love. So, wow. So, and you're open to visitors at times, or do you have special events, or how
Yeah.
does that, how are you doing
Yeah,
that?
kind of all of the above. So we do have special events that we do multiple times a year. Our biggest ones, and this is pre-COVID, of course, our biggest ones happen in spring and fall. Usually, I think the last Spring Fest that we did, it attracted about 1,800 people. And our fall is usually around, we do a Halloween event. And so that brings a lot of families out. And we have a lot of vegan food trucks and music and entertainment, and it makes it so, you know, our idea is to get people to come and feel vegan is normal. And, you know, so many community members, even if they're not vegan, they come and get to, you know, just enjoy a day outdoors. And then we have tours throughout the year. We have field trips who come from schools. We have education classes on nutrition and cooking. You know, we've done kind of a farm to table dinner that's really beautiful food, beautiful music, and having a vegan cardiologist come and talk to people, you know, about you know, how nutritious the food is and how it is a heart healthy diet, and you know, just taking those opportunities to help people shift in many different ways. We also hosted a plant-based muscle panel where some very you know, well-known vegan athletes came, and we had about 300 people come to hear them about how to be plant-based and be very fit athletically. Right, so we try all these different ways of bringing people in to get them to open that door to exploring a plant-based diet or a vegan philosophy for their lives. So right now with COVID, we started doing a lot more virtually starting last year. And we have a very wonderful executive director now at the sanctuary, who had just started maybe 3 months before COVID started. And she had to not only learn everything about the sanctuary, but now learn to reinvent everything kind of on the fly. And she did just an incredible job, because our virtual events last year, we had about 25,000 people on our virtual events in 28 different countries. So that was just an incredible year of connection, getting people to, you know, open their minds and hearts to farmed animals. We partnered with a lot of corporations, you know, like Google and Facebook, etc., who their staff on a work Zoom call like this, we would pop in for 15, 20 minutes, and they would all get to learn about one of our animal residents and their rescue story and who they are as an individual, their personality, and things like that. So that's how we really started to connect people to farmed animals. So moving forward, we're doing some things in person now, just very few in private tours we do now, because we're all trying to stay very safe. But moving forward, we can see that virtual is going to be very much part of who we are and what we do, so that we can help spread this message as far and wide as we can.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have discovered that this power of Zoom. And it's, yeah, kind of came as a surprise, I think, to everybody. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of education going on. So good for you. So if someone wants to be on your email list so they'll know when your next event's going to be online or in person, how do they do that?
Yeah, so just on our website, lovinarms.org, and it's LUVINARMS.org. So we have our virtual cameo, opportunities are there as well. So people who want to book virtual tours, they can do that. They can sign up to our newsletters. They can to learn about some of our rescued individuals, and just learn about our organization. So all on our website. And if there's something that you don't see on there and you want to maybe do some other opportunities, like our education programs or field trips, if you're a teacher, just kind of reach out. We would love to partner and explore.
Okay. And then I thought of another question. Do you keep all the animals that come to you, or do you find homes for some of them? Because I know some sanctuaries do it differently.
That's right. So we've done a bit of both. We try to go into any rescue situation with an intention of one or the other, because it just is not fair to give someone a home and a family or friends and then remove them from that situation. So, and especially there was one rescue we participated in where it was a local chicken meat farm that was going bankrupt, and they had thousands of birds, tens of thousands, that they were not able to feed or heat in the buildings because they just went bankrupt. So we did a big rescue there, but we could not have possibly have given homes to hundreds of birds. So we then partnered with people and organizations across like about 30 different states, and then we had volunteers drive these individual birds all across country to their permanent homes. So we do a bit of both, but most of our rescues outside of those, we're normally trying to give them a permanent home, and then they become part of our family. And we work very hard to take incredible care for them. And our care team is just really incredible when it comes to that. We actually, Shatrina, our executive director, she has implemented a new individualized enrichment program at the sanctuary, because learning each individual for who they are, you have to meet them not just kind of their physiological needs with food and water, but you have to meet their social needs of friendship and companionship. You have to meet their emotional and cognitive needs as well. So we have an individualized enrichment program now at the sanctuary where each individual resident is getting an individual plan for how do we meet them in their needs. And part of it is we have a new program called Clicker Play. You may have heard of like clicker training for dogs, but here we use that medium in a very different way, and it becomes play, because we all love to play, we all love to learn new things, and what we have found is our residents just absolutely love it. They just cannot wait to go, and everybody's paired with one of our either team members or a volunteer, and they work together or play together about 3 times a week right now. And our residents just thoroughly enjoy that process. And they get to learn about things as well that helps us take care of them. So for example, like some of our big pigs that we have, we want to be able to make sure that they're keeping a healthy weight. So we need them to stand on a scale. But at the beginning, that was very scary for them. But through this clicker play process, it's become a game for them and they love it. And we then get to interact with them and care for them in a way that removes fear, and it removes that kind of hesitation from their daily life. So it's made a profound difference. But that comes when you think about each individual as an individual, and not just, okay, we got to take care of the cows, and you do that the same across the board. But they have to be treated as an individual. But that also has some limitation, because then you don't have enough capacity even if you may have space, you may have money, but you don't have enough opportunity for time to do those individualized care, then you have to think about how much you can rescue, right? So there's those challenges. So it becomes so critically important that we do as much as we can through education, because that makes the biggest difference of all, right? So that's, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The education is key, and each one of the animals there is an ambassador
That's right.
that can teach the people non-verbally, who they are, and they do a really good job at a lot of sanctuaries that I've been to. That it's just amazing, the feeling that you get from them, and not just people who are already vegan, but new people who never really thought of an animal as, other than their dog maybe, as having a personality and ideas, and even wanting to interact with them. And I think that's a huge gift when an animal interacts with a person who isn't vegan yet. It's a pretty profound experience usually. So,
Yeah.
well, this is just wonderful. I'm betting that people have questions. Is there anything you'd like to bring up before we open up for questions?
No, I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. I think Lisa is our person that can open things up.
Yes, well,
There
thank you
she
so
is.
much, Shaleen. This has been really amazing to hear your story, and also just it feels as though it's truly a divine
Yeah,
experience that this was,
it does.
gifted to you by the universe in so many ways. And I know that there's been challenges, um, but you have risen to all of them. And I'm also very impressed that you are having such a large turnouts for your virtual events. That is unheard of. That level of attendance is phenomenal, really.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
is.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to join in into the crowd there. Wow, amazing. I love that you're doing this work with corporations as well, because I think that's a great way to do this type of advocacy with communities that aren't necessarily going to go to sanctuaries on their own. So this is
Right.
very exciting. Great. Well, let's see if we have any comments. A lot of the comments. Uh, so here's one question. Lisa Barron asks, "What are some keys to rebuilding trust for the animals that you've rescued?"
Mm. It's love. I mean, that's the only ingredient is love. Um, One of our recent rescues, Marley Rose, she's a baby cow. She came to us after just experiencing a big loss. Her brother had died, and she was a twin, which was so rare in cows. And the love that she received when she came to the sanctuary. I mean, our team, including Shartrina, was staying with her 24/7, sleeping in her, in her room on the hay, just sleeping with her, not leaving her side, and just giving her all the love and care that she needed, because they go through these emotions as well, and when we experienced loss of one of the rescued residents, their friends are experiencing that loss too. And so our team is right there, and everybody, like, we love all of them, and they get to feel it, and that starts to shift in them, how they perceive us as humans. And what's just absolutely amazing about animals is just how forgiving they are. Us as humans, we're not as forgiving sometimes, but these individuals have gone through some of the most horrific life situations, and they could easily attribute that to us as a species. But they can find through that and still be able to find trust and relationships with humans, and that's pretty amazing to me.
Wow, that's incredible. It truly is. It's funny, there's a sanctuary in Thailand. They have their slogan is "Love and Bananas," the Elephant Nature Park, because that's what they say has healed a lot of the traumatic. Uh, re- the residents there that have experienced trauma has been both love and bananas. So we have
Yeah.
another question for you. Um, So, what gives you the most hope these days? And this is from Sue Oliver.
Yeah. So I will preface this answer by saying that I am a entrepreneur at heart. I've always had businesses since I was 15 years old. I've never had a job and just always been a business person. And so, what gives me the most hope is technology and economics. We're coming to a point in our lives where food technology is going to get so good at replacing animal products to be just this equally tasty, or in people's perception, like it'll taste the same, it'll be cheaper to buy, it'll be healthier, and I will, I think in our lifetime we will see the world eating mostly vegan, whether they realize it or not. And I think that's what gives me the most hope, that I think we're about to be and just in the precipice of that shift, and that's going to be pretty phenomenal.
Wow, that is an incredible hope. And often we don't think of economics as a way to bring hope. And this is, I love that perspective that you're bringing to our community. Yeah, and we have another question for you. So, um, are you educating people from India about dairy and are they willing to change?
Yeah, yeah, we are actually, through our virtual programs now, we're actually partnered with some schools in India, and some organizations in India. So we've had the pleasure of hosting virtual events for hundreds of people, especially kids in India. And so they do get this message, and that shift is happening faster and faster, and it's pretty amazing to see that fold out.
Wow, incredible. And this is from Adali Ayuha, and she says also she has donated to your sanctuary and she thanks you for all of your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We cannot do this work without the support. So thank you so much.
Yes. So those are the questions that I'm seeing. There's another one or two. Uh,
I saw
just
one.
mhm.
I saw one. I think it was Christina wondered if you've got videos. I think that's what she was wanting about the click and play
Yeah.
with the
So I
animals.
know we've posted on our Facebook some of those videos. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely follow us on Facebook and you will see some of the clicker play sessions. I think we've even done some live videos on Facebook of the clicker play sessions. And it's just absolutely amazing. It even shows just how intelligent some of the species that people generally think are not very intelligent, like some of our birds. They've learned very quickly how to identify red and blue, and actually even count. And it's just amazing to see them as individuals, just how incredible they are, and through this process. So yeah, check out our Facebook.
Wow, I'm definitely going to do that. Really looking forward to checking out the clicker play. And it's nice to have that sense of play and how important that is for all of us, actually.
It is. I agree.
Yeah. So what's next for Levin Arms? Anything you see on the horizon for the sanctuary?
We're Yeah. So there's always so much to do at the sanctuary. It's almost never ends. But we are working right now on a master plan for our full property. We have 40 acres. We're utilizing only about half of that, but we're working on a master plan that will shape the future of us as an organization. We want to, our philosophy is always inspiring people to change versus, telling them or educating them, because people change when they're inspired. So everything we do should be inspirational in that way. So that's why, we talk about how we care for our individuals, because that inspires people. People often come and see our facilities and they get inspired by how the animals are living there. But I feel we know we can do more. And so our big master plan, we envision a shift away from looking like a farm instead of a barn. We want to provide homes for the animals who are residents there. It should feel like a village. It should feel like a park that you're walking through, and provide areas for the animal residents that just makes them comfortable. So kind of animal-centered design is something that we're shifting towards, so that's on the horizon. It's maybe a few years away. We still have a lot of work to do and a lot of funds to raise, but so that's our kind of a next iteration of how we grow as a sanctuary.
Well, I have no doubt that you will raise the funds needed. We're getting so many so much positive feedback on the chat box and on the live feed. I think that you will receive what you're looking for, because you're really doing this in service. It's such a beautiful practice that you have created through your sanctuary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Wondering if you might want to, we're coming towards the close of our time together, and I'm wondering if you might want to share a closing with us. It could be a thought, a meditation, or a prayer. I think that there's one more question though, and that is
Sure.
when do you plan to open in person, to
As soon
reopen?
as soon as it is safe enough to do so. So we're hoping for the later half of this year. We really hope to be able to do that, because, yeah, again, connecting our community, being able to do that in person is it's so important. So hoping so very soon. But we do small private tours. So if anybody's in the area, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we can let you know.
Excellent. Well, I'm planning to visit, so I would love
Yeah.
to come and visit, and it's in Colorado, and I am looking forward to it in a warmer season, perhaps.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
So
great.
we do, all of us who have joined really want to say some prayers and blessings to you and all the animals in your sanctuary for the snowstorm coming, and that we do hope that it is a little easier than you think, and that it will be, and that the animals um, survive with the best care that they can.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
And if there's any closing you'd like to share with us, we'd be honored.
Um, Thank you. I think and I think this is a quote that many of us have heard, and it was famously said by Mahatma Gandhi, and it is to be the change. It is the way that I feel that I live my life by. I try to, and I just want to remind everyone of that quote: is to be the change you wish to see in the world, and it will come. So continue to be who you are, and spread this spread this message. Spread the ahimsic, karuna filled message of compassion and nonviolence, and this world will be it will be there. So thank you for everything that everyone is doing in this, and thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, I feel so imbued with hope from this whole conversation. Everything that you shared, from the stories, the clicker play, and your vision for what's happening at the sanctuary coming forward. It's really been a blessing for all of us to share in what you're doing, and we're excited for you, and we will definitely stay tuned to what is happening at Lovin Arms. So
yes, you're going to get a whole bunch of new members, I'll bet you, including me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. And yes,
Thank
please do
you.
connect anytime you're in the area or wish to come. We'd love to host everyone.
well, we will take you up on that.
Okay.
Definitely.
So also
Definitely.
want to extend a lot of gratitude to everyone who's joined us during this time. We've had a wonderful experience and sharing, and also there's so many places we could all be, and that many of us are here within the conversation virtually is really quite an honor. So thank you for joining us tonight. And we're going to close with a special Namaste Vegan, which is really nice. We put our hands together and then open the fingers and keep
Yes.
the palms together in a V shape. And that's a nice Namaste Vegan. So
Yes,
Yes.
it
something
is. That's
fun.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Frank Lane thought of that, and I believe he's listening in right
Yes,
now.
he
So
is.
thank
Thank you,
you, Frank.
Frank.
Mama's
That's
Namaste
very cool.
Vegan.
Namaste. So may everyone have a wonderful evening. Many vegan blessings to all. And we hope to see you again when we have our next vegan spirituality online gathering. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.